Hello and welcome to the Big Reviewski. This is episode 4 of our TBR Spotlight on Loki, the Nexus Event. There's no video for this, but don't worry. Instead, it's an audio-only treat for your beautiful ears. Enjoy. Hello and welcome to TBR Spotlight from the Big Reviewski, your companion podcast to Loki on Disney+. Now, I'm not one for exaggeration, but today we're actually losing our Loki-loving minds over episode 4, the Nexus Event. My name's Eoghan, and to borrow a description from Loki himself, I'm joined by someone who's difficult, irritating, and who tries to hit me all the time. It is, of course, Rory. Hello, Rory.
Hi.
What the heck did you think of that episode?
Eventful. And kind of icky.
What? Well, yes, there's a certain level of ickiness in there. Yeah, I get you.
And sad.
Also sad moments. Yeah, I'm kind of. I feel like I'm pumped up because it's like, for context, Disney Plus have just released it on the platform. We're up bright and breezy. We've literally just watched it. The end credits have finished rolling, and here we are sitting down to talk about it. I feel like I know it's early in the day, but I need like a stiff drink of Asgardian figgy port just to help me through this episode. Yeah, so I'll see if I can get my hands on some of that. So, will we just get straight into it, or like where do you want to begin?
I mean, at the start.
It's a great place. Okay, so first of all, this episode is called the Nexus Event. So what I did was I went back to episode 1 and got their, watched them all, got their exact definition of what a Nexus event is, just to remind myself and to remind everybody. So those are the moments in the sacred timeline when the branch realities are created. So they're caused by variants breaking off from the supposed path set forth by the TVA timekeepers. Those guys, though, yeah, if you can believe anything they say, which we'll get to later on. So basically, once a Nexus event happens, it's going to throw reality into chaos. And it feels like there's a fair bit of that happening in this episode.
Right, which immediately, like, when the title was revealed, I was like, okay, so we're finally going to tackle what Sylvie had done at the end of episode 2, where she dropped all these like time eraser bombs and set off like a million different Nexus points throughout the timeline. And I was like, oh, we're going to see what happened there. No, never.
Nope, not yet.
It hasn't come back up. And according to, because we see the sacred timeline later in this episode, and it's fine. Yeah. It
looks as perfect as it's ever been.
So I guess that's over. Just don't ever forget about it. Just it's in the past and it's fixed, and don't worry about it.
I guess that looked cool at the end of episode 2, and then just shut up about it now. Okay, Rory?
Yeah, okay, fine. Sorry.
Yeah, that's it. Okay, so we get stuck into the episode, and they obviously begin with the previously on Loki. And what they're focusing on is not that moment that you're talking about, but the end of episode 3, whenever this big reveal was revealed bigly by Sylvie to Loki when she says, I'm good with words, when she said that the TVA are basically lying to everybody. You're all variants. And then we get a couple of flashbacks to Mobius and Loki talking, whenever Loki was laughing at Mobius and saying, you really believe all that? It's those space lizards controlling everything. And then we also get a little moment of C20 being revealed to being a normal person where she loves margaritas, which is, again, very relatable. Yep. So C20. You're the real hero here. So that was our previously. So it obviously just showing us what Kate Herron and her team are focusing on for this episode. But then this really cool flashback, if you can even have a flashback, because who knows when we are at any moment in time.
Yeah.
But it kind of pans up, and you're like, it doesn't have the purple hue of Lamentus. You're like, where are we? And we're revealed to be in Asgard. So what do you think of this? You're like, oh, look, it's a little girl Loki. Hello there, just playing away with her toys, minding her own business, and then suddenly, out of the blue, a portal appears, and it's Ravonna.
Yeah, she just snatches little girl Loki away, and you can see she's playing with her dolls, I guess, and calls one of them the Valkyrie. So we know in that universe, the Valkyries are still very much around. They weren't kind of, because I think in Loki's timeline they were all destroyed ages ago, and the only last one was Tessa Thompson's one, because Kate Blanchett killed them all like a billion years ago or whenever that was.
Whenever it was.
So we know that she's still very much aware of them. And then she's just kind of snatched, and so they put down the time eraser bomb, and it's like clean the scene or whatever. So I'm assuming the time eraser bomb only destroys the stuff that's off the timeline, the stuff that's causing the Nexus event. Because otherwise, like, why is it not, eating up the linoleum or whatever that's on the floor, like just going to town on
whatever they use in Asgard to make their floors.
Yeah, like we've seen them use it previously, like inside the tent. It doesn't kill off the grass, but it kills off the bodies that are there, stuff like that. And it kills off her toys. And I was like, what? Her toys are the Nexus event? So, and then like I know I'm going to jump around a bit. She does ask later on, it's like, what did I do? And she's like, don't remember.
What did I do?
Don't remember. Don't even remember.
Well,
and I'm like,
that was...
Is it because it was so insignificant a thing that, like, because that Loki, when they're looking for them later on, is like, we're like, even if they're stepping on the wrong leaf, we can find them. So did she just accidentally pick up the wrong toy to play with, and that was enough for her to get snatched away?
But I think what she's done is she's completely removed her entire existence from that timeline. So even though Ravonna has said that, I don't remember, it's either incredibly cutting, if we believe it, and harsh, because you're like, this has been the driving force, the incentive for Sylvie this entire time, or, as we know, Ravonna is still on the scene. She's still around at the very end. It is going to be revealed that she did have a very particular reason for going back and snatching little kid Sylvie from that particular timeline, unless there was some kind of sequence of events that Sylvie grew up to then affect Ravonna in another way, and she's trying to stop that, and then the time all over the place. But it was interesting, I thought, whenever they did bring little Sylvie to the TVA, and we get to see the same moments that Loki went through. The guy who makes a record of everything you've said during your life, the guy who checks whether you're a robot. But this time it's way more scary. It's way more ominous. There's nobody having the crack. There's nobody joking around. The music itself is just like, you're like, oh, this is a completely different vibe that they're going for at this point. But then, she's clever. She bites Ravonna, grabs the temp pad, and off she goes. That was clever, biting people. Well done on biting God of Mischief, or Goddess of Mischief. But she scoots off, and we find out that she's been on the run ever since. Just basically, so that's an element of like kind of the sadness kind of creeping in there, that she's just been...
Which not to start picking nits, but do you remember when they had the last portal jumper thing? Remember in the last episode,
the last temp
yeah, and they were like, and Miss Minutes pops up, and she's like, "Sorry, your thingy's dead, your battery's dead."
Oh yes,
so she's had that for her entire life and never needed to recharge it once. Whereas Loki used it once, and then it needed to be recharged.
I'm going to pick some nits in your nitpicking, if that's all right. Okay, because whenever Loki attempts to use it in the previous episode, and Miss Minutes pops up and says, "You're out of juice," it's Sylvie who explains to him exactly how it can be recharged and how much power it's going to take to generate the power, because she actually slags him off for thinking, what, you think like a neon sign is going to do the job? Wise up, we're going to need a much bigger power source. So obviously in her cunningness and just her smarts and being on the run for years, she's worked out how she can recharge it and reuse it, is what I'm going to say. Is that okay?
That one, yeah. Those nits can rest.
We'll come back to pick them later, I'm sure. Okay, so then we're back in, again, I'm going to use inverted commas, present day in the TVA, whenever Rona is standing in front of these mysterious golden doors of the elevator. She's nervous. She's about to go in and see the timekeepers. And this is our first reveal, which in the dark, to me, kind of looked like, is she in the set of Mars Attacks? Are those the aliens from Mars Attacks? But yeah, what did you think of this? Because we don't hear them speak. Nope. We don't see them do anything. We just get this really kind of like, ooh, creepy kind of feeling as she goes in to confront them. But then we don't actually see what happens. She just comes back out, and it's Mobius who's in the dark going, well, what did they say? Like, what are we going to do? And again, you really just start to get the impression here it's like Ravonna cannot be trusted.
Yes. So, like, the fact that we don't see them or hear them say anything to her in that scene is very, very telling to me, because later on when we revisit them, super talky. All three of them have lots to say. So I know your friend Mickey's a big fan of my big swings, but this
he absolutely loves them.
This was also the point where I realized your big swing from last week was wrong.
Oh, well, thanks very much. Did you just come here to say that? And just have, and thanks for joining me here today. By the way, your one big swing that you've attempted.
Like, the big swings are Rory's thing, and Eoghan has...
fair enough.
I just keep it to the small swings for now.
Smaller swings. Right, fair enough.
Yeah, because there was still that kind of... Because it was kind of everywhere on the internet after a while. It was like, is this whole episode like a dream? No. She's been dragged into the TVA, and we're now seeing things from like other people's perspectives. So it's that, because that was our first scene away from Sylvie, you know. So like, it didn't make any sense for it to still be a dream.
No.
So I'm just saying, I'm just putting it to bed. It was very easy to say. I just did, because it was wrong.
You're saying it like as if last week it was the stupidest thing you've ever heard in your life, and it definitely had some kind of element of validity.
It did, but now it doesn't. Listen, all I'm doing is
piss off. That's the last time I'm doing a big swing.
It's not for everyone. Is what I'm saying. Just build up to them.
Can't handle it.
It was interesting that we didn't actually get to see or hear them say anything, which makes me think. This is my big swing, is that she's super well aware that they were robots all along, that they aren't who, like, she didn't go in, she wasn't like actually terrified coming back out, and she didn't bring them to bring the what do you call it, Loki and Sylvie to them later on with the lack of knowledge of who they actually are. I think she must have known that all along.
Yeah, it feels like that whatever or whoever is pulling the strings, or whenever is behind the curtain pulling the strings of the three robotic figures that appear to be the timekeepers, that she is fully in on it, or she has in her past stumbled across something and she's part of maintaining this facade and this farce of the TVA for everybody else. So anyway, it feels like she's playing Mobius like a cheap fiddle, because as much as he, in other episodes with Loki, proved to be really not gullible and insightful and being able to read him, here it's like she's playing him like a cheap Asgardian fiddle, basically, where she's just running circles around him at this point anyway in the episode. So anyway, we get back to Lamentis 1, back to Sylvie, back to Loki. We get the shot from the trailer that everybody had seen, the purple and the two figures sitting there looking at the destruction of the moon. And we get a little bit more of Sylvie and Loki opening up together. And the fact that there was a... well, yeah, no, we'll get to that, but it was a little bit more telling, because this is just building up to the icky moment that I think you're talking about, because we start jumping between this scene and back to the TVA where B-15 and Mobius, and they're plotting their next massacre. As we know, it's like, well, they're not killers in that sense. They're not just out to create absolute havoc. But this is the point you were talking about. It's this moment where we see the sacred timeline looks pretty steady and pretty secure to me, as if like everything is absolutely fine here at the moment. So what's the big deal? But then we get back to Lamentis, and this connection starts to happen, and Loki says to her, "We don't die, we survive." And then basically, "You're amazing," as they look longfully into each other's arms, or each other's eyes, and then their arms touching their hands, and it all gets very hot and heavy a bit. But what do you think of this moment? Oh, you don't like it? You don't like it? Mm-hmm.
Gross. I hated it. I
get the impression you think it's this. What is it about it that you hate?
It's the same, like, it just doubled down on that. Is it your sister? Is it yourself? Is it someone else entirely? Like, it's just gross. And also, I would have much preferred if Lady Loki was not a love interest, if she was just a character who also existed. Like, I know it feeds into the whole narcissistic aspect of Loki anyway, because he truly does love himself. So, on a fundamental narrative sense, yes, okay, I can understand the logic behind it. And it also might not even be going down that road. It could become a level where, like, later on when he kind of has a self realization of his own personality deficits, let's say, and by learning to love another version of himself, he might grow to love himself more and not be such a douchebag all the time. But I hated it. I absolutely hate it, because the whole time I was like, if they kiss, I'm gonna get sick all over this laptop. No, didn't like it. Didn't like it.
So this whole element is obviously giving you heebie-jeebies, and you're not the only one getting heebie-jeebies, because the sacred timeline gets heebie-jeebies as well whenever this moment occurs. And I did think it was pretty funny whenever it cuts back to Mobius and B-15, and they're saying, it's like, have you ever seen a timeline like this? And then they go full Naked Gun. Do you know that scene in Naked Gun whenever they basically they're having sex, and instead of seeing the sex scene, you see all the metaphors for sex. It's like a train going into a tunnel, it's like a flower blooming, a rocket taking off. And they actually, well, this is the first thing that popped into my head. It's like, you ever seen a branch like that? I was like, what are they going to show? And they literally show the most, like the largest branch from the timeline going up the ways that you've ever seen, and that's gotta be some like innuendo in there as well. Obviously this connection being made between the two of them, but then bang, the ickiness is interrupted, because as you said last week, we're probably just going to see Mobius turn up and yoink the two of them off the moon that's about to be destroyed, and lo and behold, that happens. Portals open and they're transported back to the TVA, where they're split up and they're taken to two separate holding areas. And again, the humor's always still there, where Loki is like, how come she gets more guards than me, basically? You know, which is just, again, that narcissism coming through. And then, like, obviously it's revealed what this time cell is whenever Loki is going to, but just as it opened up whenever Mobius is transporting him to this next place, it's like, ooh, is that like a red tinted portal as opposed to an orangey one? So what did you think of this little moment where it's like Loki is transported through to basically his Groundhog Day prison?
Yeah, like it was fun just to see Lady Sif again, because I don't think we actually see her die off in Ragnarok. I know it was the three dudes die when Hela, is it Hela?
Yeah, Hela rocks up and kills
with bits of her horns and just flings them all over the place. But she, I don't think, was in that scene. So it was nice to see her again. I always liked her in the Thor movies. And, you know, Loki's cut her hair off, and that's funny. It's so childish, though. It was enjoyably just like...
That's it. Yeah.
Like, why? The God of Mischief, and he just cuts a bit of her hair off and she's livid and he's like, meh. And it was like, initially I was like, okay, I can see why that's funny. And he's like, this is something that's happened and I just don't care about this. Like, why would you put me through this particular moment as a time loop? And then it does reveal itself that because it's so insignificant over and over again, he's like, oh, wait, I was a douchebag all those times and I am a douchebag. And it does, like, listen, I've said this a lot. If you need someone in the balls often enough, they will have a self-realization moment. And
you have said that. There's not a day goes by
Loki
you don't
proved
say
me
that.
right.
100% correct. Yeah, as you said, it was lovely to see Jamie Alexander back as, or maybe it's pronounced Jim Alexander, back as Lady Sif. And I do like it kind of reminded me of the DB Cooper scene, whenever, in terms of Loki's character as being the God of Mischief, when he just used to get up to stuff that was a bit of crack. Now, I know cutting off somebody else's hair may not be deemed a bit of crack by everybody, but obviously this was him having fun. It's really pissed her off, and he was just doing it to annoy her, and then he goes off and has himself a hot bath. But, as you said, repeatedly getting kneed and punched in the nuts and in the face, that's going to take its toll.
And being told over and over again that you're going to be alone.
This is the key thing, because again, the first couple of times I heard the line, but it didn't really make an impact. But it's only whenever Owen Wilson returns to the time cell later in the episode, when he's had his own epiphany about the TVA, and he says, "Do you deserve to be alone? Do you think that you do?" And you get, oh shit, that was the real punishment in the time loop over and over again. And also, that's what's created this Nexus event on Lamentis, where the connection between the two, but suddenly Loki has this realization maybe that he isn't going to be alone and he's going to be with his
Gross.
other, not sister,
Hate it.
gross, yeah, okay. But love, can you truly get in the way of love, Rory? So basically, so that's the real kick in the nuts in this scene is obviously being told that you're alone and that you always will be. Then we get back to some of the magic of episode 1, where it's time for another tete-a-tete between
So
Mobius
funny.
and Loki. It's brilliant, isn't it? This scene back in the interrogation
You miss
room.
him. Like episode 3, he's missing, and then seeing them back together again, and the dialogue is just like there's one line. There's a few lines actually where like Loki gets one good dig in, where he's like he calls him like it's like
a folksy dopey
folksy dopey line from a folksy dope. I was like, oh my god, that's so funny. And then like Mobius gets a few good digs in as well. He's like, oh, here's the prince going to tell me how to live like a normal human being or something. I was like, oh my god, they're really good. The claws are out, guys. But it's when Mobius has a parallel reaction to the gross, like self-cessed
yes
relationship. It was like, you guys, like it's in his delivery, it's in the word choice, everything he says. I was like, yep, that's exactly how I feel about it. I hate it, and so does Mobius, and so does time itself.
Two variants of the same being, especially you, forming this kind of sick, twisted romantic relationship. That's pure chaos. That could break reality. It's breaking my reality right now. What a incredible seismic narcissist.
Yeah, it's like it's pure chaos. It's like that could break reality. It's breaking my reality right now, which just again felt like a very Owen Wilson line. But even like the part where he's like, "You fell for yourself," and that's the perfect description, because we all know people like that as well who have done that. So, yeah. But then we get obviously Loki. I did find it strange the way Loki was still trying to kind of play him with like, yeah, I'm the mastermind of the whole thing, and I was like, why isn't he just getting straight to the point of like the TVA? He knows himself and Mobius have a friendship of sorts.
I think it's because he thinks or Mobius just won't believe him.
Yeah. I suppose, and then it's only when in a desperate ploy, a last ditch ploy, he kind of says to him, before this you had a past, you had a family, a life. And I was hoping he would say a jet ski as well, but Mobius himself gets to the jet ski realization later on in the episode. But it was lovely to have that kind of return. And then similarly in the TVA, we also cut to it's B20 is having her own. Or sorry, not B20, B15. Getting the hunters mixed up. B15 is having her own thoughts. Obviously, whatever Sylvie did to her, whatever memory was conjured up, it's thrown her complete questioning of reality into doubt, and she's like, oh, what did I see? She obviously saw herself being happy years before, but we don't know that at this particular moment. And then she basically goes into Sylvie and takes her away to a portal, which we later know is the Rocks cart. So that was all set up nicely. We're getting all the elements. Everything's kind of building, getting together. Then we get this like case closed. We're having a couple of whiskeys, and I got my shirt buttons open. Scene in Ravona's office. But what do you make of this? Because again, I thought Mobius was being played for a fool, and then it's like, oh no, wait, he's been playing her all along in this particular scene. Whenever he swaps the temp pads around.
Yeah, it really hammered home how greatly understated Gugu Mbatha Raw's performance is, because we now through this episode have seen her be like dodgy AF. She has done a lot of shady shenanigans, and I'm like, I'm watching you, Renslayer, because
I'm keeping my eye on you.
Not feeling the vibe you're putting out whatsoever. And then in this scene, she's saying everything that Mobius wants to hear. She's like, there's one particular line and we'll grab a clip from it, and here it is.
You've seen all of existence, same as me, so you know. Friendship like ours is uncommon and worth fighting for. Same as the sacred timeline.
That line, where she's explaining their unique friendship. And it's kind of, it's like, you are my favorite. I know I've talked about, getting stuff from other agents, but Owen Wilson, you're my fave. And that's just feeding into your ego because, see, this is the thing as well. This is my big swing that I'm just going to get into it. Are they all Lokis? They're not just variants. They're all Lokis. Because Owen Wilson's ego is feeding into, it needs to be told that he's the best of these agents, in the same way that Loki needs to be told he's the best of the gods of mischief. Do you know what I mean?
There's definitely potential there. And listen, I'm a bigger person than you. I'm not just going to shit all over your big swing just because you were nasty about my one from last week. I can see
you're clearly very sensitive about it because
as a person,
your big swings go, it was a big miss.
Makes big swings myself, I can see the potential, I suppose, in your big swing. But yeah, it's I know what you mean. Yeah, that could definitely tie in with Mobius's character, and trying to think, and then we'll get to the post-credit scene later on in terms of what that potentially means when you're speaking of like maybe they're all Lokis. But then what about C20, going back and having her margaritas? Could she be a Loki in that world? Potentially, possibly. Who knows?
Because we see a variation of Loki when they episode 2 when they're heading out to Roxcart, and one of them is like a cyclist or something. He's like an Olympian cyclist.
Yeah, winning the Tour de France.
So
exactly.
Like it could. Who knows? You know what I mean? Like they could potentially just live completely vastly different lives than like. And to be fair, margaritas I think are universal. They're not specific to any one timeline. Everyone loves a margarita, especially because those ones look good. And I know I watched it at 8 a.m., but I was just looking around to see if I had the ingredients to make one.
Craving a margarita. Yeah, no, my favorite moment in that scene when they are back in Ravona's office is whenever Owen Wilson delivers an absolutely classic Owen Wilson. Ouch. Whenever Ravona insults him, he's like, ouch. Which I just, I love that little moment. Also, again, I was trying to figure out whether it meant anything in the bigger picture, but we've commented on the music, obviously, before from Natalie Holt, which is excellent throughout. This music in this scene, because Ravona always seems to have like easy listening on in the background, and this was it's a piece of music called The Swan by Camille Saint-Saëns, and it's been played on the theremin, and it's usually played on well, you play the piano, the cello, whatever you want to do, but the theremin here, and I was trying to figure out whether or not I was attempting to find some kind of big connection and big swing of my own.
Well,
but
I think
failed
what it does is the biggest red flag ever that she's a goddamn psychopath. If you're sitting around listening to a theremin, that is that's a red flag.
Listen, each to their own. We immediately cut back to Roxcart after this scene where B-15 transports Sylvie here, knowing fine rightly she can use her magic, and that's the whole point. She wants her to, so she's taking a risk here. She's putting herself in danger, knowing that Sylvie could easily escape at this point. But yeah, you get this lovely kind of Matrix moment where it's like you've been awoken from the sleepy non-reality that you've been stuck in this entire time. And again, I know we've talked about B-15 throughout, and she plays that part brilliantly. In all the episodes, there's little moments, but like brilliant work from Wunmi Musaku, who I didn't know before this. I saw she was in His House, which I think was that horror that was released last year that a lot of people were raving about as well. And she had other bits, pieces in Luther and stuff. But this is my first kind of experience of seeing her in this role. So it'd be interesting to see if she remains in this series, if she comes back in the second series, because she's obviously there at that pivotal moment later in the episode when we return to the timekeeper scene. But strangely, again, it might be like the reset charges that you were talking about in episode 2. She's kind of there at the start. A couple of guards attack her, but then she doesn't appear for the rest of the scene.
They hit her once and she's out.
Yeah, and she goes to
down.
the ground, yeah.
So That was disappointing because I was like, go on. And then she was out. I was like, oh,
go on, get them.
Right.
Oh, all right then. I don't think she's pruned. We don't see her being pruned anyway. Yeah. So she's just
as a glass
underneath
jaw.
the little smoke. The smoke machine that the robot timekeepers have got going on there. So that's fine. Then then Mobius, we're back at the TVA when he takes the time to examine the temp pad and goes back and looks at this little. If everyone thought the Matt Hancock topical reference CCTV footage was the most controversial in the past week,
you're right.
You ain't seen nothing yet until
no, it's still the most controversial, but this is a close second.
This is a close second whenever he's witnessing the interrogation or the debriefing of C20 and she reveals, she's like, this was real. This was a memory. I knew it. She's like, what's going on? And then the very, not clunky, it's just like the very pointed kind of, it's Ravonna looking back directly at the camera. So we definitely know it's her who is responsible for calling the shots here. But yeah, so that was grand. That was all fine. Then we're back. Mobius confronts, this is the moment we were talking about earlier, when he confronts Loki in the time loop and says, do you deserve to be alone? And again, a wee bit cheesy. Then whether you allow them, this is like, I can't believe I'm trusting the word of two Lokis. And Loki,
what about a friend?
What about a friend? So any friendship or love related stuff, you're just like, no, that's I'm not having it.
The other thing is that Loki doesn't have any friends. He's never had any friends. So the fact that he likes Owen Wilson feeds into Owen Wilson being another Loki because he likes him. And also, how come none of them ever age? Because they're all Lokis, because they're all gods. Because they've been doing this for a long time.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'm trying to nitpick here, but then that's fine.
The evidence, I guess we'll just is piling up.
See how crap your big swing is in the next episode when they reveal it all the way pants. Now, this was a moment, one of the sad moments. Well, again, you said you don't like love, you don't like friends. Maybe death will get you, or pruning. This is the moment Mobius is pruned. And it just comes, it happens so fast and there's no hesitation from Ravonna. She's like, prune him. And that's it. He's gone. So
at the time, I was like, "That is shocking." This is like L.A. Confidential, Psycho, where someone who you think is going to make it to the end of the film, at least be killed towards the end, is killed in the middle, and I was like, "Holy, that's unexpected."
Yeah.
Now, what I will say is that the events at the end of the episode completely undercut that action.
Yes.
So I wish that had been in a different episode. Do you know what I mean? Just to let that wallow for a week. To be like, oh my God.
Yeah.
But knowing what we know now, I'm less sure we won't see him again.
Well, it was at this point I had written down, it's like, what does it mean when you're pruned? Because we just kind of assumed initially it was going to be death. And actually in the previous episode, I know that we had talked about whenever Sylvie manages to break into the TVA, realizes her powers don't work, and then we said, she's got no trouble beating the crap out of guys and just killing them right, left and center. And then it was like, but maybe she knows that pruning isn't necessarily, I don't know if she does know, but as we said, it doesn't necessarily mean death, as we come to find out later on in the episode. But I know what you mean. It would have been nice after missing Mobius to give him that kind of space of that. Still though, as a what the heck moment at the end of the episode, it's hard to kind of argue with that payoff as well. So then we're approaching the timekeepers finally in the, again, present day. We're at the elevator. Loki and Sylvie are back together for the first time again in the episode since they were separated. And as you said, this is where the really cutting line comes in. It's like, what was my Nexus event? Why did you take me away, basically, from where I was growing up? And just, I don't remember.
Do you know, it actually reminded me of, do you ever see Street Fighter, the movie?
A long time ago, but it has been. You're going to have to remind me on the finer details.
I absolutely will. So there's a scene where Chun-Li has been held hostage by M. Bison, the big bad guy, Raul Julia, and she's like, "Do you know why I'm here today? I'm here to assassinate you because you killed my whole family, you killed my whole village, you came in and just torched the town, blah blah blah." And M. Bison's response is, "To you, this was the most important day in your life. To me, it was a Tuesday. And I was like, bam! That's the only good line of dialogue in all of Street Fighter, to be fair. But this kind of
it's a pretty good
this
one.
passive nothingness response to like a life-altering event. That's, I know I shouldn't be comparing it to Street Fighter, but that is what it reminded me of.
Do compare it to Street Fighter, especially when it's 100% accurate as well. I'm actually going to do another wee comparison here, because this is when they come into the timekeeper room and I was like, oh, the Mars attacks, guys, they're real. Unbelievable. Because we start to hear them speaking, and then we see they have these kind of special guards in there, and it reminded me of is it The Last Jedi, whenever Kylo Ren and Rey team up to take out kind of the Imperial Guard and Snoke. Yeah, so he's sitting there, and obviously, so that reminded me a little bit of this, but they still don't have their magic. They're still using basically their fighting skills, and the weapon that B-15 throws, obviously one of Loki's knives as well, and then the decapitation. I was like, oh! But again, there's no way they're going to just leave it at that, and then you see the sparks. And actually, I was watching it with the subtitles on as well, because, you know, we said we were talking before, you often, every so often, you know, if they're going to make a mistake in the credits where they reveal Sylvie's character name, you never know, it might have somebody's character name in there that's accidentally been left in, or just give you a little, we talked about in The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, actually, the first time whenever Anthony Mackie rocks up in his new suit towards the end of the series, and it actually says Captain America grunts. And you're like, oh, he's Captain America now, as if the suit didn't give it away as well. But in this one, before kind of was revealed that there are wires and there's sparks and stuff, the noise it made, boom, it just said in the subtitles, it was like powering down. And you're like, if you're a real beast, you're not going to be powering down. Just clearly something is up here anyway. But there was a brilliant wee line where Loki's just like, oh, it never stops. You know, it's just like there's always a twist. There's always something else happening. Again, which was relatable as well. But then you were probably properly icked out again, because this is the moment it felt like, oh, they're about to kiss. You know, when you used to practice kissing in the mirror, and by used to, I mean this morning, earlier today.
Is that me or you?
Anybody, really.
In a wider reference. Okay, yeah. You're just making it more relatable to all of our listeners. Cool.
100%,
yeah, no, it's interesting. So there's a few things from in there. One is obviously sat through the credits, because Marvel. They do not reveal the voice actors for the Time Lizards. There's no actors' names come up for them. Now, to be fair, they also didn't have Lady Sif in the end credits either, so it could just be, you know, a marginal oversight. But I was like, oh, who voiced it? Maybe that would give away who it is.
Yeah.
And no such luck. So clearly Marvel are staying one step ahead of us there and not making another Spanish end credits mistake like they did 2 episodes ago. But
Los Mistake.
See.
Yeah.
So there's that. And then, yeah, like just kick. Everyone's on the ground. Everything's fine. Loki's about to kiss his sister self. And I was like, gross. And you could feel it. And it was getting so uncomfortable, even between the two of them, because he couldn't get the goddamn words out. And she was like, what? What could you possibly want to say to me? What could you want to say that's requiring you to stand within kissing distance? I don't understand. And then poof, he's gone. And he's been wiped out from the thing as well. And Ravona's like,
pruned from behind.
Pruned from behind, indeed. But Ravona, you're like, Ravona, no. So interesting. Does she know? Does she know that it doesn't necessarily kill you? Because she was very quick to be like, just prune me. I don't give 2 Fs. And I was like,
yeah,
she was willing to jump on that sword very quickly. So maybe she knows Mobius and this Loki and herself will be fine post pruning. But maybe she doesn't. I don't know. I don't know. I think she's bad. I
think, and this is the thing where we talked about before, in terms of when they're casting a particular person, and you're casting them knowing what their their filmography in real life is like, it's like, and they're fundamentally usually a good person, and then that actors will always jump at the chance to portray somebody that's out of they don't want to be pigeonholed as like, I'm not always the good guy. And Gugu Mbatha-Raw strikes me as like, she's just a really kind, warm, like, person, and you're like, wait, can she really be the big bad? And it does feel like, from what you were saying in terms of the character of Ravonna and teaming up with or having a relationship with Kang the Conqueror, in the wider sense of the Marvel universe, and potentially in the Marvel Cinematic Universe then as well, it feels like, oh yeah, like, just what is her role? Is she completely good, completely bad, whatever? But it is interesting that she, as you said, was just willing to go, do it now. And is that like, give me the sweet release of whatever pruning is? Or, yeah, does she know that she's transported or taken to some other place, some apocalyptic looking destroyed city on Earth, potentially, because they've got lampposts. I was kind of looking at the picture.
The ruined Avengers Tower is behind them.
Oh, yeah. Is it? Oh, I didn't see that. Right. Amazing. Because I was trying to figure out exactly where this location potentially could be. So we get that moment. We also get, just before that shot in the credits, Sylvie not getting rid of Ravonna. So we know Ravonna's around. Obviously, still 2 episodes to go in the series. And she's still around in order to get information out of her. So again, we might find out whether that Nexus event, is she going to go full M. Bison on her, or will she actually have a reason for removing, was it just a Tuesday in Asgard, or will she have a reason for taking out of her out of that reality? But then, as we said, sit through the credits, what do we get? And it's this moment we see Loki waking up somebody, because as he pointed out himself, he's like, I've died so many times before, there's nothing you can do, just go ahead and do it, scram, whatever. And he has died in pretty much every film he's been in so
more or
far.
less, yeah.
Almost, yeah. I think maybe not Avengers Assemble, but the other ones, there's a form of death, or at least a version of it anyway. But we get this, we hear a voice first, and as you mentioned last week, there is a big star still to come, and it is, of course, Richard E. Grant. And we said at the time, he's like, he would make a really good older kind of Tom Hiddleston type Loki, and lo and behold, he looks like he's dressed up in like a really cheap Loki outfit, which is amazing looking. But I loved this moment. We hear his voice first, but I loved the shot of, we'll get to the characters now, but it kind of mimicked the shot from Avengers Assemble, when which we saw in the series of Loki as well, whenever Mobius was re-showing Loki of times gone by, whenever the Avengers wake up and Hawkeye's got the arrow and they're kind of surrounding, but slightly more friendly looking, if comical, figures in this one. So what did you think of this little teaser in the middle here?
Yeah, like, I think there had been talk before that we were going to see Kid Loki, so it was a nice kind of payoff for this episode. We knew Tom Hiddleston wasn't dead after being pruned. Like, we knew this. Again, I would have liked this to have maybe happened in a separate episode to Mobius's pruning, just to give it, again, that bit of space. But it was nice to see. I think the end credits called it like original Loki, I think.
It's classic Loki is what they've called Richard E. Grant's character. Yeah,
Kid Loki. And then the other one is you obviously have it written down there. It's something like,
I have it here. Boastful
Loki. That's the one.
Yeah.
And there's a fourth one.
There's a goat.
There's a goat. I thought it was. Is it a goat? Okay. I looked back twice and I was like, is that a crocodile that he's holding? So I clearly didn't see that right. But he's wearing his, to be fair, I didn't antler things.
Goat horns. Yeah. Well, you see, this is the thing. So the 4 of them are there. And the goat /crocodile doesn't get a shout out in the credits, because obviously,
hasn't said a word yet.
Like, they need to. Well, he hasn't, but I was thinking the others, like Kid Loki and Boastful Loki, don't say a word, and they still get a name drop. So I don't know, like the goat acting union need to get on to whatever to get their due credit. But in this moment, we get Richard E. Grant, classic Loki, and I'm presuming they're referencing classic, like, of old Marvel comics, because it looks like that old yellow and green style of what Loki's outfit used to look like. Kid Loki in the middle. who looks like he got like a even smaller, younger Timothy Chalamet sitting there, played by Jack Vale, and he's holding the animal. And then I wasn't sure about the other big lad on the left because it seemed like, oh, he's got a hammer, and I thought, is he a version of Thor? But then it was just in the credits, it was like, no, he's boastful Loki as well, played by a guy called JOE.ie, who I don't know either. So it'd be interesting to see what role they play, if any, in the upcoming episodes then. And then, yeah, it looked like a goat to me, but I did miss the kind of collapsed, destroyed Avengers Tower in the background. So I might just be confusing a crocodile for a goat, which has happened on multiple occasions before. So there is that mid-credit scene. Job done, and there was nothing else really, or did you spot anything else in the credits? I think that was pretty much it for me. There might be some little snippets that come out during the week.
Now, aside from like the lack of voice actor name for the Time Lords, no, there was nothing else in the end credits. But it was like, okay, so we know that the TVA had previously pruned other versions of Loki throughout the passage of time. So this is obviously going to be a number of them. But Richard E. Grant's line, I was like, when Loki's like, am I dead? He's like, not yet. But it's something like that, isn't it? It's not yet, but we need to move faster, something like that.
Yeah, it's not yet, but you will be unless you come with me.
So that's setting up something, obviously.
Yeah, they're still in danger. There's. I mean, it's like that kind of thing, you know, in any apocalyptic film, when somebody kind of wakes up somewhere and it's like they're offered help by someone who's been there for years, and you know they've got like their tie tied around their head and their grime all over their face, and they've made a weapon out of like a fork or something. Do you know what I mean? It's like, come with me if you want to live. That style of
So I think it's like I think pruning is sending someone to right before an apocalyptic event. And that's why they haven't been spotted there, because, as we now know from the show, unless you do something off the wall crazy in the lead up to an event, you won't get spotted. Unless you fall in love with yourself and you try to smooch your sister self, you won't get spotted in the moments before an apocalypse. So I'd say they are recruiting other Lokis in these other pruned Lokis in these just before apocalypse events, and they're all going to like lay siege to the TVA eventually.
Interesting that they would go back to New York then. What we're presuming is New York, because that's the one that we associate most closely with our Loki of Tom Hiddleston in 2012, and that's where he was going to, or that's where he launched his attack basically through the big space portal in the sky. So I wonder, is that a version of the timeline where he was maybe successful in that way, or he clearly destroyed a load of New York, or it could have been just another apocalyptic event. Who knows how the death of the Swallows or the extinction of the Swallows affected anybody. So that could be related to that one, but it will be fascinating to see, because obviously if you got Richard E. Grant in there as well, he's going to be, or he appears to be, some kind of de facto leader of this new group of Lokis. But building an army of Lokis, definitely I'm here for that. It'll be interesting. I hope we see Tour de France Loki in there as well, and big Hulk version of Loki. Maybe those other variants are all there as well, having been pruned previously, possibly in the TVA.
Yeah, because like in the trailer, we've seen a few times now where Loki is like looks like he's running for president.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So I wonder if this next episode we'll see like Richard E. Grant and him like fighting for control of the Loki army, and he's like, well, what did you expect? And then all the other Lokis turn on Tom Hiddleston, and they're like, no, we're actually with Richard E. Grant because he's been doing this longer.
Yeah, and interesting, because just when I must go back and watch one of the earlier trailers again, because that version of Loki who's like, vote for me, and he's got like the little badge on his suit, I think he's surrounded by warriors from like different times. So again, that would feed into other people who have been pruned. I'm trying to think, is there like an Attila the Hun type character in there, which just makes me think, or maybe it's just all the cast of Night at the Museum have just ended up in wherever people get pruned from. But it'll be interesting to go back and see that now and see exactly who those people are, and if they're in this particular place in Prunatory. Is that what we got?
Okay,
will that work?
I'm happy with that. Yeah, you should be proud of that.
Okay. Oh, thanks. Well, I'm not proud of my big swings anymore because you're a prick, but that's fine. That's no worries.
We're all good at something.
So anyway, that's a wrap for the entire episode so far. So really looking forward to episodes 5 and episode 6. Rory, if you could go anywhere and any time, on the timeline, is there a particular place where you would go?
I'd like to go back to the writer's room for this episode and take out the person who suggested that Loki should kiss his sister self.
Fair enough. That's very minute or very specific kind of detail.
It's the most recent trauma I've experienced. I thought, I guess that's why it's still raw.
Right. Okay. Fair enough. So it's the freshest memory. That's fair. I was thinking maybe the happiest day of your life, whenever that would be, and that's just whenever you didn't know that Loki was going to kiss the face.
Every
off
other
himself,
day was the happiest day of my life.
Face.
Yeah.
It's nice. So every other day. Okay. Do you want to know where I would go, or do you care really? Or?
I mean, I feel like you've got an answer all set up.
I do have an answer. I tell you where I would go, Rory. I would go to the Nexus episode. I would go forward in time to the next to the Nexus episode. This is the Nexus events. Playing words. So anyway, that's it for this week and our deep dive into Loki. Hope you've enjoyed it. I know that I have anyway. I can't speak for Rory. But I think that was that my favorite episode so far? I'm really enjoying the series overall anyway. So I think, what do you reckon? Is it up there with your favorites?
Episode 2 is still my favorite. I'm still digging the Fincher vibe of that one. And yeah, this is definitely better than 3, but I still think 1 and 2 are the standouts. But Hiddleston says that the events of 4 and 5 combined kind of set the show off in its own unique path. So I think we're seeing the first half of whatever the big swing within the show is going to be. So yeah, I'm very, very excited to see how it all pays off next week. But I swear to Christ, if they smooch in the next episode, I am out. You'll be doing episode 6 on your own because will be done.
Oh no, I'll just go back in time and get you and bring you back, stick a wee time loop twister thing around your neck. Damn, and bring you back, so you have to relive it again and again.
Damn
and
you,
again.
Darby.
Well, listen, Rory, thank you so much today for your big swings and your insights as ever. Thank you to Sean Paul on sound, and as ever, thank you to everybody for listening. And what did we tell you last week about subscribing? We said forget the TVA and stick with the TBR, and we were right. So make sure you do that. Thank you to everybody who has subscribed, and thank you for enjoying the shows. And also, got loads of class interviews up there as well. So you get all of those straight into your feed wherever you get your podcasts if you subscribe to the show. Right. Okay. I think that's it.
You okay?
Yeah, I think I might go and just kiss myself in the mirror for a while. So I'll see you later.
Okay. Goodbye. Gross. Gross.